a lot of my time. I'm supposed to be buying this pump. I'm supposed to be doing this. Now, do you see how then you involve your family? It should be a natural and a kind of a natural process. Recently, last week, I heard there's a court case. I'm not going to talk about names or whatever, but I read where this retired old man, I think he's in his early 90s, he had farms, square miles of farms. He didn't know that his 3 children had taken away land titles and had changed the land titles to their names. So they were selling property one by one. To the extent now when he realized he only had the house where they were staying in. The young people had already sold the properties. Your question is very, very important. That if you didn't involve them, probably at the time they are selling the properties, they are saying, but Dad, why is he still alive? He should have gone a long time ago. This man is
sitting on.
Sitting on us. So my colleagues who have retired or who are still in office, I want to concentrate on those who are still in office. We need now to start planning with our families. Please, I am from a huge family called the police. And I know what goes in there. I was their chief political commissar. A person who even goes to the barracks and see what is going on in the barracks. A person who also receives complaints from spouses. Yeah, my husband has never done this. You are sitting on a latent problem. There is a bomb that is going to burst. Whatever you are going to have, whatever you're working for, is not going to benefit even you as a person, if you didn't plan with your family. And I think the time, whoever is listening to us, the time is now. You need the family. Let me tell you, that time when I was staying at home doing nothing, I normally give this testimony to so many people I talk to. And I tell people that when you retire, you need you need a cash flow. You need some money. And you see, sometimes these benefits from NSSF, they take some little time. Now I hear you have gone to 8 days. But there used to be 40 days when you have not received the money. Or sometimes you receive the money and you want to see what you should do. So you somehow keep the money. So you don't have the money that you used to have to buy bread, to buy milk, to buy food, and that kind of thing. That is when you will know whether you and your spouse were actually moving in the one direction. My wife used to leave me money at home because she would come late. Now I'm at home so that I can buy milk, I can buy bread, I can buy the few things that I used to buy. Not that I was broke. No, I was waiting to do something that is important. Okay? Now, from that point in time, then you begin to understand that I invested in my family. I invested in the cohesion of my family. COVID-19 showed us something. When we were all locked up there, so some of those houses became so small for people to stay in. And we all know that COVID time was something like 1 year, 2 years, or something like that. That place was a hell for people. How about the rest of your life when you have retired? Okay? We all retire so that we can have more interesting. You yourself read for us the 3 quotations. That the best time now is the time during our years. Okay? You want a stress-free life. You want a life where you don't have diseases that are disturbing you. Okay? You want to have, family around you. I tell my daughter when the small children have not come at home, by then she's in trouble. If she doesn't bring these small children, they even find me in the office. Because they study around where I work. So when the driver comes to pick them, they said, Dad will be in trouble. I will be in trouble with Daddy. Let them pass there and greet him and go. You see what the family means? It means at that point in time, like my age, I want to have my family around me. This is not the time when the people are running away from you. And how do they come towards you? Because you planned, because they see something that they should be proud of. But I'm telling you, if it is not there, then you are not going to see anyone.
That's very true. That has brought it home. Thank you so much for that. You've heard, Tony, that you need to plan with the family. You need to stand together with the family. have cohesion. And COVID really taught us some lessons about building bridges, for us to thrive. You realize we had to be in the same space as families, work together, inform them of everything. You would not make a phone call outside the house. You need to make the phone call inside the house. So it's critical for transparency.
Sometimes under the bed.
And that's very true.
Yeah.
It's very critical for transparency.
Yes.
And I think our listeners need to know the fact that if you don't involve your family, like how retired AIGP has said it, then you're crumbling your own family,
I agree.
You sit and go with all that wealth and people, because we've seen it, even in our ambits, in our career lives. A widow comes and does not know anything. I remember when our friend passed on, our colleague we went to school with, someone just came to the widow's house and said, give me these land titles. They are located here and here. And yet they were in her house, but she didn't know where they were. And these were her husband's titles. So innocently, she also just got up, you're grieving, hand over the titles. It's after 4 days that she realizes that, what, I gave away my husband's properties and he had not told me anything. So she had to start working backwards, And I remember what a funeral service, what really hurt us most was this innocent widow kneeling down. Our friend was in a corporate entity, earning big, comfortable and happy. But she was right there kneeling down for a job because she had been left with nothing. She had no titles of her home. They had not engaged. So we need to work with our families. We need to invest with our families. Like retired AIGP has also mentioned the fact that his wife took on the farming, which was there before. So could you guide our listeners? What other ventures can they go? Where can they invest? When do they start? What are the ambits of investments? So that when that time comes, their families are together with them, and also there's continuity even during retirement.
Okay. Thank you so much, Faith. Like our retired AIGP has said, the thing with when we talk about a plan, plan is a big word. Okay, majority of the people probably have their plans in their head. In my space, when we're actually doing what we call a financial plan, we talk about 7 spheres. Okay, the first sphere is family, and it's what really we've been able to, to indulge in right now. By the way, if you involve your kids at an old stage, it's already too late. It's too late because, and from my space, I've been able to work with families, and I mean, the children are not interested at all because they were never involved. They want to do their own things. Maybe they have thriving careers, but when you actually go to the bottom of this, they were never involved at an early stage. So, and I'm going to be able to run through that as well. So we look at 7 spheres in terms of financial planning, and I'm speaking mainly to the corporate space because that's where I know most people think that's where people have it figured out, but majority don't have it figured it out, because what happens is we do not have those plans. Just like your colleague you talked about, we have our plans in our head. It's only us who know how certain things should happen. That's why almost 95% of families do not know what to do next when the breadwinner is not there. It doesn't matter about how much wealth you have. It doesn't matter how much educated you are. Even the professionals you've been able to see, name it doctors, lawyers, whatever the profession space. We leave our families at ransom, yet we've worked so hard for them, and we leave them to chance. Now, if you want to do it correctly, and we talk about a plan, which is a financial plan, there are 7 spheres. First is family. Why family? Because family, every single person I know that has been working, majority of the time they are working for their families. And they are working, by the way, at some point in time to be able to own something on their own. The second thing is education. And education, I like to share that education starts the day you leave school. That's when you start education. Right now, like our listeners right now are learning something. You invest in yourself, your place of work. That's so important, but not only for yourself, but also for the family members. Health. Health is so important, and AIGB can actually share with you that health is so important for you, especially in that space of retirement. And I'll probably come back to that as well. But when we talk about health, we talk about two spaces. That's mental health and physical health.
Yes.
All right? Then we come to the fourth, which is finance. You know, finance, that's where we tend to put all our focus. That's where you have the properties, the equities, the bonds, the commodities, you know. That's where we tend to focus so much. But just like all the other 6 spheres, just as finance is so important, all the other 6 spheres are also as important as finance. After finance, then you have what we call community, because we're all part of a community, either where we come from or where we work or where we probably go to our place of worship. It's very, very important. Okay? Then we have what? So we've talked about family, we've talked about education, we've talked about health, we've talked about finance, we've talked about community, we've talked about spirituality. And spirituality is very important, irrespective of your spirituality. How do you want it to impact, like Assistant AIGP is talking about, how do you want your spirituality to be impacted to your next generation? Is it even important for you? Can they choose whatever they want to choose? Okay, so each and every one of those aspects is as deep as finance. Now, having known that, that's what we call a whole person concept. And each and every family is unique. We are totally unique in our circumstances. There are families that you probably, that are polygamous. Those require totally different planning. You know, there are those that probably don't even have children, because we've been privileged also to work with families that haven't been blessed with children. But they still have family. They have spouses and they have the broader space, nephews, nieces, name it. So each and every one of us is unique. But one thing that is very important is all the 7 spheres, if you're doing a plan, have to be incorporated. Otherwise, you'll find yourself focusing on one space, which is financial. Now, to bring it back home in terms of retirement, like AIGP has talked about, what is very important, you know, in wealth creation, there are 3 stages. There's the creation, there's the protection, there's wealth protection, and there's wealth preservation. They all require different strategies. The way you'd plan for a 35 or 40-year-old is different from the way you plan for a 50-year-old that probably has had no plan at all. It's probably even different the way you plan for a 60-year-old, because there are also many who have actually come and have gotten their benefits. I mean, NSSF is doing their mandate, but once people have gotten their money, then whatever they do there, you don't have control. And I'm glad that why you invite us here to share different perspectives. In your journey of life, it's just like when you're given birth to, when you're born, there's nothing you can do about time. Time is moving. You can't stop time. You can't do anything about time. Headmaster Sir talked about today people are 6 months older than they were at the beginning of this year. There's nothing you can do about time. Just same thing about life. You're born and then you age. And the time will come, in financial planning, we like to use the year 80, because anything after 80 is a bonus, it's a plus. But as you move through the different cycles of life, there are different priorities. There are totally different priorities. But just to focus on retirement planning, you'll find that there's a stage for asset accumulation, which probably you will need. And by the way, retirement today is changing. I'm getting very many families or estates planning retirement for even members way earlier than the usual age of 55. Today people want to retire earlier. Why? Because we are living in a hybrid period where people are doing things they should have done in their retirement. That itself as well is a problem. But I'll probably discuss it later. But what's very important for you is you need to understand that there's asset accumulation and then there is income accumulation. There are 2 different strategies. What you use in asset accumulation is different from what you use in income accumulation. And what you need in retirement is income accumulation. And that's why most times when I see people getting their NSSF and starting a new initiative, all from a green field, I get to ask why. And you know the problem, Faith, is when we have a tooth that hurts us, we'll look for a dentist. But when we talk about things that are so dear to us, I mean, for God's sake, we work for 30 days to get a paycheck. But when we get that paycheck, we want to use hearsay or on a Twitter forum to be able to make a decision on something like that. Or even using our NSSF, something we've worked for many years, and deploy it using our own or maybe a spouse's expertise. Yet there are very many experts that we have in this market that will guide you. I know NSSF is also doing a great job, but there are very many people out there that are able to give you. But your strategy should be that as you go into retirement, it should actually be income accumulation. And when I talk about it will be income accumulation. And when we talk about the different asset classes, because there are only 5 asset classes anywhere you go in the world. There's property, which we all know. For the longest has been the greatest asset class. It hedges you against inflation. But is property bad? Yes. No one ever talks about the bad side of property. There are markets where property depreciates. I've been able to be in markets where property has depreciated. Property has other costs incurred to it. Most property owners never assess what we call your occupancy rate throughout the year. For as long as you know you're getting your 10 million shillings, so you won't sit down to do an assessment to know whether my occupancy rate is high. But does it make property bad? No, it's a good asset class. Why I'm sharing this is all the 5 asset classes are equally important. The most important thing is what you choose out in as you're doing asset accumulation is different from what you use when you're doing income accumulation. So when you even go to the bonds are fantastic. They give you a good return, but do they have a downside? If you want to see the downside, see what is happening in Ghana right now. Okay? Yeah. Could it happen in this market? There's no single economy that's proof for that. But does it make it a bad asset class? No. What I'm trying to show you is each asset class has pros and cons. Yes. When you go to commodities is anything to do with farming in Uganda's context. Farming, that's trees, animals, crops. That's under? Bees. That's under farming. Can you have a fantastic season? Absolutely. Yes. Can you have a horrible season?
Yes.
Absolutely. When you go to cash, that's where you have different instruments. That's where you have pension. Your pension sits under cash. You have your fixed deposits. You have your unit trust. You have your mutual funds. You have your annuities. Provident fund. You have your life insurance in there. Okay? So there are only 5 asset classes. What's very critical is how you pick them up during these 2 stages, during the asset accumulation stage and during the income accumulation stage.
So at what age, Tony, before you break off, is when do we start asset accumulation? Because we've realized, and when do we start? You have to be a little bit specific.
Yes.
Because you realize most of us come in and claim our benefits.
Yes.
And go and start projects.
Yes.
So at what stage should I start asset accumulation?
Yes.
Is it, as Assistant IGP retired said,
yes,
that when I start working,
yes,
immediately I start?
Okay, so, and our market is unique because in this market, people probably start working at about 25 years of age. Other markets, like the developed markets, have an advantage on us because people will start working maybe at about 19 or even much earlier. But since we are talking here, and by the way, here I mean sub-Saharan Africa because we've been privileged to work in all those markets. Now, if you start working out at 25 years of age, you're healthier, you're probably alone, you can live off 50% of your income, all right? You probably haven't gotten a spouse yet. So literally, that time you're able to start, if you get guidance of an advisor, you're able to start making up good decisions. So I want to break down what we call the cycle of life. In our cycle of life, which is 0 to 20, that's the first pyramid, then 20 to 40, then 40 to 60, and 60 to 80. Again, I shared with you, 80 is anything above 80 is a bonus. I mean, look at your relatives who are above 80. It doesn't matter how wealthy you are. You can't, I mean, the food you eat is decided by whoever's taking care of you. You don't have much control, okay? Yes. But when you look at that cycle of life, by the way, it's 28,000 days. That cycle of life is 28,000 days. Now, when you look at 0 to 20, in Uganda's perspective, you're not working, correct? So it means you're looking at 20 to 40 and 40 to 60, which is pretty much, if you're looking at a circle, is probably the lower part. Yes. Okay. Between 20 to 40, assuming you probably start working at 25. Yes. All right. Again, using the element of the 5 asset classes, how do you pick them out in those 2 quarters? Okay. Because when you start out to work at, because again, you're probably not earning so much money, correct? Yes. You're probably working at 25. So in that space, I'll probably focus on cash options. Yes. Which I've talked about, because by the way, for you to be able to get that paycheck, you need to show up to work. for 27 years.
Yes.
For 27 days. So if you're showing up for 27 days, it means the most important asset in that context is you. So the question then is, what value have you put on your life? And that's where elements or instruments like life insurance come into that space.
Okay.
Because it's the only way you're able to put value on your life. Okay. Now, as you move down the cycle between 20 to 40, in that time, you're probably alone, maybe a spouse, and maybe one kid. You can afford to be aggressive. And by aggressive, I mean, because we all have different risk appetite. The way I look at property is different, maybe from a AIGP retired son. And maybe the way she looks at farming is different from where I look at farming. We all have, and that's why when I'm sharing with most of my clients, I tell them that, when you're picking out assets, it's not about the return. There's more beyond the return that we actually need to look, and that's why you need an expert to guide you on that journey. But to take you back between 20 to 40, you can be aggressive, irrespective of your risk appetite. But around that time as well, because of the way we start working here in this market, you probably, in your last quarters, probably that's when you can start to accumulate what we call fixed assets. Okay, but again, it's not a choice for everyone. There are clients that are not interested in any other fixed assets, but that's their choice. But between that, you can actually be aggressive. But as long as you hit 40, now you're going into the second quarter, right? Because now it's not about you alone. You have a spouse, you have kids actually, right? Now in that space, you need to start being balanced. That's between 40 to 50. You cannot take the same decision you've been taking between 20 and 40. And between 50 and 60, you need to start being conservative. Why conservative? Because at that point in time, you want to make sure that you keep ground of whatever you've been able to gain. The only reason why you see generations start all over again, a great generation comes, someone does something, pushes somewhere, and then they start all over again. It happens. Why? Because they've not been cautious on those different stages and how they pick out different. I've been privileged to work with some high net worth families in different markets, and you'll be able to see that they're very deliberate on how they're actually doing that. Okay, and when you live between 50 to 60, that's you're conservative. But after 60, now you've gone into retirement. You need to become defensive, and that's why your focus there needs to be income accumulation. How do I preserve this and grow it? First, it's not how to grow it. How do I preserve this and grow it? Now, unfortunately, that many people, when they get there, because they don't have professional advice with them or someone to guide them on that journey, when they get there, that's when they want to be aggressive. That's why people get actually your money that you pay them in NSSF and probably go and start all over. Before even they're 30% of the project, all of it is gone. But as you do that, and I want to emphasize this because we're talking about retirement. When we talk about retirement, we talk about things, there's a lot that has been done on savings. And NSSF has done a fantastic job. All right? You've talked about investments. The banks, the people in the financial services have talked great about savings and investments. All right? But let me tell you something, Faith. It's not about that in retirement. There are things they never talk about that I want to share today. When we're doing financial planning, savings and investments, great. I won't go into that because banks, NSF, you're doing a great job there. There's something called coverage. What's involved in coverage? Coverage are things like you can get critically ill. Today, you don't need any history in your family to be diagnosed with a critical illness. You don't need any history because of our lifestyle. What we eat, what we do. Neither of us is impune in terms of being permanently disabled, whether you drive or walk. I mean, you can be on the farm and you get permanently disabled because probably for an incident that you have no control about. There's something called long-term care. Long-term care is where you lose at least 3 or 4 abilities to help you run day-to-day life. And what are those? Things like taking yourself to the toilet, things like dressing or bathing yourself, That as well, again, as you age, is bound to happen. The elements of death, you gave an example of a colleague, early death, that no one ever plans for. No one ever talks about that. But let me tell you something. Everything I've talked about in coverage, irrespective of whatever you've done in savings and investments, one incident can come and wash out everything. That's why you've seen families go back to scratch. And sometimes the person never heals.
True.
That's coverage. But there are also other bottom things that I need to talk about. There are things like tax planning. People say, we don't need to plan for anything to do with tax. Depending on again, like I shared with you, Faith, we've been privileged to work in different markets. Some markets, assets are taxed. Yeah. I don't know what our law states, but it's an interesting one. Maybe we'll discuss about it later. But how well have we prepared for that? We have other things like trusts or estate planning. Because, if there's no proper plan in place, I'll give you an example. Many people do not know or have not put in place who should take a decision in terms of a medical emergency happens to you and you're not in the rightful mindset to make a decision. Many people don't know what to do. That's why you find families saying, no, we do this process to them. A friend says this. And you leave, yes, they're in a critical position, but there's no clear guidance on what has to be done.
Sure.
And if the laws are very, very strict, in some markets, you can't do anything unless there's that.
That's true.
There are other aspects, but our focus has been so much on savings and investments. But when we talk about retirement, we need to look at the coverage. We need to look at these other components as well, and how do they play part
in the story. Thank you very much, Tony. Estate planning, quite sensitive and quite critical, because like we've both have mentioned that we plan. Yes, we plan with our families, but how do we protect what we are planning for? Retired AIGP, please guide our listeners. How can they protect their estates? Because they finish to plan. They know what to include in these plans. Because like Tony mentioned, from 60, you need to have all these baselines. How has it worked for you? So that maybe we have lessons as well, so that our listeners can be guided.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much. Retirement is a journey that you learn every day. Yeah, there are probably some other things I haven't experienced. I normally like telling people about my own experiences.
Yeah.
But from my own experience, I think one of the most important things as we plan for retirement, planning for retirement is planning how you're going to survive and live long. You talked about 80 years. Planning for retirement is making sure that I add 1, 2, 3, I go to 90, I go to 100. So it is something that is going to take most of the time. I think in my opening remarks, I talked about having something that you have planned for, and you only need to go and do supervisory responsibilities and all that. That means you have set up something that is registered, that is incorporated, that for some, not everybody, I know there are people who may not be able to do that. But one of the things that is going to guarantee protection of what you have, please, we have now a very vibrant URSB.
Automated.
Uganda Registration Services Bureau. You can go and register. And sometimes we fear the taxes, the taxman is going to come. There are many things that we incorporate ourselves in that are not going to attract taxes. Not everything that is registered, okay? And sometimes when you begin, but we shouldn't fear taxes at the same time when we actually are getting returns from the investments. So the rate of return on investment, when you take away tax, that shouldn't be a problem. So number one, my advice, I have registered, like the hardware shop I talked about, we registered it. Okay, the small farm that I'm talking about, it is registered. So registration is good. It informs on who maybe is a shareholder, could be part of your family, that every member of the family is a shareholder in that investment. Now, what does that mean? When I'm a shareholder into something, I'm going to protect the sanctity of that investment. Okay? 2, it gives parameters of who does what. in that investment. So your young brother is not going to come up and say, for me, I have a master's degree. I am the right person to be able to. No. It doesn't matter whether you have a PhD or you have what, or you are number one in the family. But in the registration process, what is, let me call it infrastructure. Who does what in this kind of infrastructure? That is number one. Number two, protection is what we talked about the family. The harmony of the family. A family that works
together.
That works. A family that is together. A family that respects each other. For me, that is a very, very important safeguard in as far as protection of what you have labored for, what you have planned for retirement. If you are going to have a family where somebody is going to say, Daddy has lived long, you should go. You know that everything that you have done is not protected. If members of the family you say, oh, let's go to the farm. You people, you go, I have more important things to do. Every member of the family must see how important they are to whatever investment that we're talking about. Okay? If you're going to have people, okay, we are going to have these days families. Some people live in the Bahamas, some live in Japan, some live in the UK, some live, they are almost everywhere in the world. They don't need to be there. But I want to tell you, a family that has interest on what has been done, they are interested to know who is there. They're interested to know who looks after that property. They are interested to know their accounts, if there is anything I will give an example. I will not mention a name. There is a judge who passed on.
Yes.
And the other Christmas, I had some my family, coming together. And then I needed some few things. And they have this business where they deal in, I don't know, chairs, tables,
Furniture.
Yes, furniture, but also the clothing. What do you call it? Decoration?
Decoration.
Yeah, the decoration,
Oh, yes.
and all that. They even do catering.
Yes.
So I went there. And when I reached there, in Mbarara, in Uraharo, people now in Mbarara know what I'm talking about. That family, the family head was a judge of the High Court. I found them in a meeting. Lawyers, economists, their mother, everywhere. They had an uncle who's everyone was in a meeting, and they seemed to be like, oh, that guy is serious. I have not reached there. One of the sons who is now the managing director of there, and everybody was giving an account on what you are doing. How I love that we have that kind of family. A family that is going to protect, a family that is going to add on something. If I know my dad left something, it's natural that I also want to leave something to my children. Now, from generation to generation, there is a family of wealth creators. Okay? But there are also a family that destroys the wealth that has been created by someone. Then we call them family wealth the destructors, if that word is there. Okay? Because everybody knows that I saw a video where a father is still alive, a parent is still alive, but every child goes to capture him, kidnap him, if I can use that word, so that he's in your home. So that he can tell you what he has. So that you can, it's like, now if I have him and I take him for treatment, I keep him in my house, then I will have a say on what is happening. Maybe he can tell us what he has not told us. You understand? Yes. It means that there's no will. It means that there's nothing that shows what is going to happen. Don't leave your family in that kind of apprehension, in that kind of situation, okay? And children, when you reach a point of your daughter who was married in Mbare or in Tororo or in Bushenyi or in Shema, where I come from, they are going to come and kidnap me and keep me there, and they are all complaining, Dad is going to die. Invest in that family. The family is going to guarantee, is going to protect what you have achieved. The other issue about protection is being candid. Is being candid at a certain point. I've retired. Why should I keep on hiding the fact that I have an account maybe in the UK or in where. At what point do I want to tell my family that I have this? I bought a flat or an apartment somewhere in Ginger. It's on Speak Road somewhere in Ginger. Why shouldn't I be able to talk about these things? The moment you talk about them, then the family is going to kind of,
Reserve them
yes, be like the guarantor of whatever you have achieved. So I may say so many things on this point, but I think again it goes to our subject today.
Yes.
It goes about family, about the guarantees, the safeguards that you must put in place in order to ensure that everything is protected by the family. Maybe lastly, this is a Ugandan thing, and I think I should talk about it.
Please.
At my age, you may find I have children whom I don't know, or whom other people don't know. I have seen a retired man is dying, and some people come around and they say, this is his child. You can be 70 years and then there is a kid of 4 months.
Yes.
Yeah, somebody has just come and is declaring that this is your child. Okay? When it comes to that, I am not sure whether even what you worked for is being guaranteed. I think we need to be more open, okay, about the family we're talking about. What family are we talking about? Who are those people that we're talking about? By the way, I may have had somebody who grew up in my home. He or she is not my biological child.
That's true.
But the fact that I took up this child when the child was 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, looked after, educated that person, she knows no other person except me. Yeah. Then it is natural that the family must know that this is part of the family. And I can tell you that those people are going to guarantee, are going to protect, even from your own children who want to who want to destroy to destroy the property. And lastly, people don't want to hear about the will. I come from the police side. That police side is still within me. And I can see and I can tell you that the police deal with lots of issues about property because you did not provide clarity about what would happen to the property when you have exited this world, and as all of us must exit. And I think it is better that you go and prepare and prepare your family vis-a-vis what you have. I think that is what the will is all about. The will is not going to say that is my child and stops there. Does it to a lawyer? It doesn't say that. The will goes on to say that I have this, I bequeath this to so and so, so and so, and so and so, and so and so. So those who are listening to me, you know that time will come and we shall exit. And if we want to protect what we have as a family that is going to transcend us through generation to another generation, then we need to protect this. Are we not all proud about people we see in town and then they say, oh, your mwana wa gundi. Your mwana wa owechitibwa gundi ne gundi. Echagwe baina yika. Not yika. Mairo. Baina square mairo yetaka. And these guys, when you look at them, the way they wear, because they are proud to belong to a certain family, they will never take anything. Instead, they would be taking people to go and see what their fathers left. I have seen a family in Mukono. They have a library of what their father used to do. Okay, and everything is there, including the pianos which they used to play. Everything is intact and is in place everybody wants to make sure that it is kept like a museum, a relic or something like that. But it's part
for
of the family
remembrance.
that everybody is proud of. And that is what we must inculcate into our families, so that everything that we have worked for is kept in a secure manner.
Wow, that is quite elaborate. You know, we cause our own downfalls in most times in society, and thank you for clearly elaborating that when you work with your family, you know, plan with your family, then you'll have continuity. In most of, I've seen it a lot in the central, I don't know whether it's also in the west, the families that you do mention, that that's so-and-so's family.
Yes.
They own acres in
Yes.
Muyenga, they own land in Kololo, because they've appreciated the hard work put into it.
And we keep on complaining, why so and so's
Exactly.
family? They have invested in that
In
family.
that family.
good job
Exactly.
will be given to that member of the family because they have a
Because-
track record. But for you, if you keep on selling your 1 acre and the guys are not even having jobs, then you come
Yes.
up and say, why is it that family?
yeah,
Protect what
but-
was in that family so that you can have a robust family.
That is very sound advice. And we tend to forget keeping our things under mattresses, in the banks, you know, investing everywhere like you guided. But when no one knows what you're investing in.
Yes.
So when the time comes, how will you distribute it? Actually, they'll be fighting for it because there's no cohesion. I like the fact that these days, after a lot of sensitization, people are now sitting down with their families and on a round table. This is what we have. And you know, some people fear that when I tell my children what I have, they may plan to kill me. That is a sentiment. Or they may plan that maybe let's take daddy or mommy somewhere else so that or they'll become lazy and not work. But I don't believe in that kind of sentiment, because you instill discipline in your children. You instill discipline in the children, and the children learn how to what? To preserve. It's about preservation, continuity. So there are a few questions. Of course, I like your last phrase of wills. People need to write down everything they own, distribute, so that there is continuity. So there are a few questions. This one I think will be to retired AIGP. It says, I'm apparently a kid to all here and still a student. I'm concerned about my parents involving me into retirement. One has retired, the other is about. But there are financial issues that come up every time I'm involved. So what do you do when you're involved? A little late. And you find a burden to clear loans, heavy ones that you didn't know before, and they are stressed and they need some guidance.
That is very true. There are people who have retired, and then instead of retiring on something, even the retirement benefits from NSSF and even from other, benefits that are given, including pension, goes to pay a debt. Then after that, you find that the children are now going to literally be doing everything, pay for health, pay for all these things, including even in church. In church, you have
Offertory.
yes, not even offertory, because there is something you are supposed to. In Runyankore, we call it a chuero.
The time?
Yes, there is some amount of money you must pay in a year. So somebody has to pay that money for you. Let me say this. I think as children, we also need to have a meeting. We have to have a discussion. We have to have candid discussion about our parents who are in that kind of category. Talk to them to understand for example, what is it that they have. But if they don't, and they are going to be involved in in this, and then you are going to be stressed, even you yourself,
Sure.
because you have a family you have to run. You also have your own plans, but you are not going to keep on, paying this and that and that. How about if I go to my parents and say, Dad, there was this issue and this and this, and we had to pay 5 million. Would you like to tell us if you have something else that you have accumulated, you have acquired, a loan, or something, and if you find it out, and then you begin to discuss on what should be done. Okay, maybe there is something an estate can do in order to generate that money.
Income.
And so it is important that you understand so well. But also, don't be away from your parents who have retired or who cannot be. Be with them. Be with them, plan for them. Don't neglect them. If you neglect them, other parties will come to tell them that they can do this and this and this and this. They can give them some money. And when they give them money, they make them write arguments that should they fail to pay, they actually they don't say should they fail to pay. They say so and so has sold me land.
Yeah.
They
transfer.
They put a date. They put a date when the loan is supposed to get finished. Okay, they forward the date. If you are supposed to finish in December, they say 30th December to 2024. We are now in June. That's when you are supposed. They say he has sold me land.
Oh dear.
Now, when you fail to pay by 30th of December, somebody shows up and says, I want to do something to my land. All of you are evicted from that land. Now, if you children, that is something that you don't want to see. Okay? So instead of blaming them, understand exactly what it is and then how you can sort it out.
Oh, great. Another question for you, retired IGP, is should we start involving our families in our investment decisions or discussions? How good can we make it? Please guide. There are 2 people in Koboko where after they were involved, their spouses were involved in the discussion. Their wives filed for divorce. Some of them feel like they need to give up. How can he support?
My understanding is that when their husbands try to get involved in their parents' property, then they file for divorce. They don't want to get involved in something like that?
Yes, because they openly had that discussion with them, that he says our investment decisions. They had a discussion with them, and then when they discussed with their families, the spouses left.
Okay. I think my intuition tells me that even when you have a family, this is your family. I have a family of my own children. Maybe I have boys who are married. Maybe girls are also married to other people. So when we are dealing with an intricate situation like that, and we have spouses, we should plan with the spouses. So that the spouses know
And
appreciate the kind of decisions that we are going to make. But if you tell your wife and say, teweyingiza mu nsonga zino tezikukwatako, tuli mu nsonga z'abamutima, ate gwe gwe oli wa butiko, something like that. Toyina engeri gy'okola ki. Naye jjukira that it is important that your spouse appreciates the sacrifices you are going to make for the family. I think when we do that, then we are not going to run into trouble like that.
That's good. Thank you very much. Tony, how did you manage the transition from leaving the job at an early age to focus on your company? And there is a consequence where you plan for retirement, but your payment at the workplace is not sustainable. Is it possible to retire early enough so as to start your own business?
Thank you so much for the question. I think before I answer that question, also maybe want to build on to the question earlier given to AIGP retired Hassan. You see, estate planning is a very sensitive space that you shouldn't try to navigate on your own. And I'll give you the reasons why. Because when you talk about estate plan, a will is only a component of the estate plan.
Yeah.
Because when you look at the pyramid of estate planning, there is the will, then there's the element of taxation. Then when you go down, you have things like retirement, which we are talking about. There are things like inheritance. There are things like asset transfer. Okay, now when you go in depth of those things and having a conversation with the family, on your own you cannot navigate it. You actually need a professional. And which professionals? You need multiple professionals. And the example you gave, where you met lawyers and you met financial advisors, because actually the lower part of the 4 areas before the will and tax is actually done by a financial advisor. So you need a lawyer along with a financial advisor, and depending on the estate size, you may even need a tax planner. Meaning, if your estate is beyond one jurisdiction, you probably need a tax planner or more than one tax planner that understands the different markets. If you do navigate it on your own, and kids heavily compare. And beyond that, and I'm sharing from my experience, when you're doing a distribution, because the actual will we know here is actual distribution of assets. The estate plans that I've actually seen, and I've had the privilege to work with families that are doing generational wealth, because the family we work with, I think we have a family that's 4th generation. They're a bit different from what we see. In the normal will here that we have, you have actually what you have an asset distribution. Because all our kids are different. All our family members are different. They have different abilities. Sometimes there are families where you have kids who have special needs. How are those taken care of?
Yeah.
Will they be able to manage on their own? How have you factored in all those aspects? Now, on your own, you may not be able to actually navigate those waters, so you actually need professionals to guide you on that. It's very, very important.
Totally.
They are affordable. Usually there's a question, where do wills kept? Today there are many service providers in this market, even with law firms now offering that in terms of archiving. So there is no reason whatsoever, because each and every one of us has something to give.
Yes.
The example you talked about, someone talked about a generation inheriting debt. There are 2 things each and every one of us will give. You either give assets or you give liabilities. You have a choice, but at least at the bare minimum, do not leave your family with liabilities. Because we're living in an era where it's not a guarantee that our children will take care of us, because there are very many demands. In fact, when I'm working with most of my clients, I want to preempt any option of you depending on the kids. You probably want to have a plan that doesn't have to depend on the kids. You have better chances that way. The times are gone where I have to rely on them, because today kids go in other countries, they relocate, they get married wherever they want to get married. So the whole dynamics of estate plan, which is a good conversation, because a will should actually be able to show things like, what would you want them to do? Where do you want them to do in terms of charity? It shouldn't be asset distribution, because a child will ask you, why did you give me in Kololo and you gave this one in Naguru?
Yes.
Why did you give me 1 acre and you gave that one 100 acres? On which basis? So you're actually leaving them a bigger problem. When you have professionals working with you, you're able to address an element which is called fair versus equal. And in many times, unlike family, it doesn't matter what kind of wealth you have, provided that harmony is not there, it's only a matter of time for that wealth to start dwindling. But at least with the proper estate planning, you have proper guidelines. And my apologies, I've spent much on that, but I think it's very, very critical, especially if you're talking about family and retirement. Back to the question.
Please.
Of how did I decide on... Again, each and every one of us is unique. If you ask me whether I was prepared, I was not prepared. Because like I shared with you, I think when I decided to leave my business, I think I had planned, in our actual plan, I was supposed to continue to work for another 6 years.
Yes.
Then here comes an opportunity where I have to make a choice. Either continue to work with my employer and leave something that I've dearly built. I think at that time my wife had even resigned and started working the business. Or I stick along with the job and leave this passion. In many times, just like life, we will never be prepared.
That's true.
In many times.
That's true.
We'll never be prepared. But I think there are some things you need to do as you continue to work at an early stage, maybe from year 25 to pretty much maybe 35. Because I appreciate the fact that my time in corporate, it helped me to learn lots of things like structuring, how to run an enterprise, what needs to be done, what are processes. So there's an experience, because when we're talking about assets, there are 3 types of assets. There are the financial assets which we talk about, which is property, which is any young person probably, or person in corporate space will say, but I don't have these assets, how am I going to survive? Okay? And then there's what we have, what we call intellectual assets. Intellectual assets are things like your experience, things like your skill set, things like your values. You know, the intellectual, and that grows over a period of time. And this is what we call the human capital, human assets. In many times, we get so buffed down by these financial assets, thinking that I need to have those to actually be able to make a leap and get out. From my experience, and I shared with you, we are all unique. And I've worked with very many people, those even younger than me, that have actually made such bold moves. But our circumstances are unique. The only thing I can advise is you need a professional guidance to make that decision. Do not be in a rush. Sometimes waiting is good. But you won't know unless, because you need to be able to separate your decision based on your mind and your heart. How I was able to do that is because I was so sold to something that I like doing. I enjoy wake up every day because my job and how I take my job is every single day. I wake up to protect families. Even on sharing on a platform like this, maybe someone will pick out something and they'll go and do. For me,
that's true.
That I may not know, because one thing I can tell you for sure, we are all parents. We are all planning for our parents. I mean, we're all planning for our children. But one thing we can't be certain about is who will be our in-law. But I'm hoping, because today you cannot.
That's true.
But I'm hoping that as
That's
we are
true.
able to share, and I believe the same thinking with the AI IGP, Richard Hassan, is the more we share these ideas and the more we're able to give you perception or perspectives, you're able to go back and plan better. And that way, me and you will actually have been able to give our children a good head start, because maybe our in-law will have been prepared better for, as we are also preparing for our children. I hope it makes sense.
Yes, it does. In just one sentence, there are just a few questions. One is, what happens if I receive a letter and my contract has come to an end? How do I move forward?
Oh,
yes.
If your contract
has come to an end, I've received my letter, because someone says you're talking to someone who received the letter yesterday, that your terms have come to an end. It's time to go.
Okay.
Yes.
My hunch is that you have been planning. Please go to what you have planned for. And we shall continue talking about this, that please plan. But if you had not planned, everything is not in vain. First of all, retirement is going to need your mindset. Retirement is what your mind is telling you. If you think that everything is now all in shambles, you are in trouble because the car is going to be taken, because the fuel card is going to be taken, because the salary has been taken, because nobody is going to call you. No. Don't panic. Hand over your office. Tomorrow go home, reach home, rest a bit. Could be 1 month, and again now start figuring out what you need to do. Number two, you are going to get some benefits. Definitely. There are people who are going to come knocking on your door that you can do this, you can invest it here. They are going to start planning for you. Do not put yourself in a vulnerable situation where you are even going to get loans. Somebody can say you have some money. They don't plan for you on how to use that money that is there. Let me give an example. You have 50 million that has been put there by NSSF.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Now, then somebody comes, maybe a bank or any other, okay? And then it comes and says, they don't say, let's plan for you for the 50 million. They will tell you that you can actually have a car of 100 million, and the 50 million they only need to add on so that you can buy a car of 100 million. In short, the bank or any financial institution of that nature is looking at a big portfolio for you to start paying, interest to this loan. By the time you finish 1 year, you do not only have your money, but you have a loan that you are going to service, and yet you don't have where money is coming from. And yet even this car is big, maybe demands a lot of fuel. Okay? So what I'm trying to say is that take some little time, plan so that you can do something. I am sure in NSSF you have people who advisors of people who retire on what they should do with with their money.
Money.
So let him or her come and then talk to these people on what should be done. But do not panic. Do not think the world is coming to an end. Very soon, I can guarantee, because I have gone through this, very soon you will even appreciate that you needed retirement. Number two, you will also realize that even retirement is better than
Exactly.
than where you
Before.
were. When I wrote something thanking the president, because I have never thanked the president, and people were saying, "Oh, Luseke, okuba Luseke, oyagala bakuwe ekifo." I am well.
Yeah.
I am well,
Because you
and that
planned.
comes in with retirement.
Great. Thank you so much. Tony, how would you handle divided attention in family? You've set up something which is to bring in money. You want to involve them, but they have totally different interests. In one sentence.
Again, it only takes me back to navigate those waters with a professional, because when you have a third party coming to a conversation, they're actually able to give you a perspective on what other people are doing. And again, it's unique. When you say divided attention, I mean, for someone, divided attention may mean I'm not interested in that business. So what happens for a family member who does not want to get involved in family business? They can actually they can still be a beneficiary, but not employed in the business. There are provisions for that. The whole purpose is to make sure that this great gift that you're giving people, let it not be a big burden to them. Let it allow them to be able to pursue whatever they desire to pursue, depending on their different desires. So divided attention may mean something totally different. So, it could mean I'm not up for this responsibility, get someone else to do that. It could be I don't trust this trustee. So those are elements that will come in if you don't have a third party that is helping you navigate that conversation. And by the way, you don't have to be so wealthy to start a conversation on estate planning. You don't have to be so wealthy to do that.
Okay, thank you very much. There were a few questions about midterm access. Midterm access, someone is asking when and how can they mentally prepare themselves to come and gain midterm access, even if they are not at that retirement age. But I think, Tony, you addressed that don't come in to start something new. And also retired AIGP said that, you know what, sit down, plan, engage financial advisors. By the time you come in, you already know what you're going to do with the money in the right way. Yes, so I think that one you handled. And then the last was about what happens, what is retirement? Does it apply to private sector as well as government employees?
It applies to all. It
Amazing.
applies to those who are in civil service, public servants, and even when you are in your private...
In your own business,
private
self-employed.
employment.
Yes.
It's actually more difficult when you're in private business.
Oh, yes.
I struggle a lot with business owners to
Yes.
plan a transition because this is their lifestyle, their livelihood.
Yeah.
There's a client I'm working with in about, I think, 69. And because that's what they've been doing for the last 20-something years, the kids are of age, they're bringing great initiatives, but they're becoming a burden to themselves in the business. So the business is stalling because of the creator of the business. So again, like AIGP has
said,
mentioned, it applies to every single, and you being able to know this is the time.
Great. Tony, in 2 minutes, please give us your parting shots. Any resources or books that you would recommend people to read, which financial advisors, then we'll go to retired age.
Well, for me, I think my parting shots are we owe our families the bare minimum of an estate plan. Something that's going to guide them that in case, not because of death, most people think about death because there are other things, but in case I'm not in the rightful mindset to make certain decisions, they know exactly what to navigate. In case I may be critically ill, I shouldn't be a burden, but I should actually have tools within my plan to make sure that at least they are available. They don't look at me as a challenge to them. That's when you need them most. And in case you're not around, there's actually proper guidance. Then that's the only way you know that you have a chance maybe for a legacy. Thank you.
And Tony, please share your phone number as well and your offices.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that-
Our offices are on Acacia Mall, 4th floor. Our office in Nairobi is on Delta 2 corner in Westlands. And my number is 0752 103 996. It's 0752 103 996. And my email is Tony, TONNY, at eightoncapital.com. Eighton Capital is EITON Capital. Eighton Capital is one word.com.
Over to you, retired IGP.
I just want to, my parting shot is that retirement, to me, invariably depends on three most important things. Number one, planning. That you will never be late. Start planning for your retirement. What you want to be in 10 years, begin to plan it now. When you reach 40, Tony talked about the age between 40 to 60. There, still plan what you want to be when you become 70, when you become 80. So planning is important. That is number one. Number two is about the family that we're talking about now. Please make sure that you involve your family in the planning and in whatever you do. That will be important in as far as how many years you're going to live. Let me tell you, I feel so young in my body. I'm 60 years now, some few months in 60 years. But I feel like I am 40 or something like that. And I want to live until when I become 60. Now you understand what I mean. I feel like I'm 40 or 30. I want to live up to 60, which means if I live those 30 years, I'm pushing myself to 90 years.
Yes.
Exactly.
So it is important you plan with the family. If the family is not with you, it is going to put so much stress and so much pressure into you. But also, I can share this, that retirement, you're going to enjoy retirement depending on how you conducted yourself when you were on work. Okay? So issues like honesty, issues like humility, issues like integrity, issues, all those issues, respect to people, how you respected yourself, all these things are going to be thrown back to you in equal measure when you leave the office. So we may talk about so much money, but people don't want to deal with you because they think that while you were in office, you were a dubious person. Okay? You want to get some loan somewhere. Then they were going to say, this man is a dubious person. We know him on what he did. Okay? But people are willing to help you, to give back to you because you helped society. You did what we call Rotarians, a service above self. So these three things are so important to everybody. But sticking out, as we discuss now, is the family. The sanctity of that family, the health of that family, the unit of that family will make you who you will be in so many years. I thank you so much, and may God bless you.
Okay, could you share your number as well?
Oh, I am on. I have two numbers. The third one, I don't. Very many people don't want to use it, but I'm on 0772 40 63 30. 0772 40 63 30. And then I'm on 0707 71 21 20. 0707 71 21 30. My office is on Lane Street. That is in Tinda Chiwature Road. There's an independent hospital. Turn on your right on what is Agape Lane. Sorry, it is Agape Lane. I've been there 2 months, so you'll excuse me.
It's okay.
You excuse me.
It's okay.
Yeah, Agape Lane, and you'll find Tayari Security Office. Anyone who wants private security, Tayari, we are the best on the market.
Okay, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for listening in. I hope you've been guided in your families and how to manage investments, how to retire, how to plan, how to stand as one. It starts from the upbringing of the family the unit that you have, and continuity. And above all, seeking help. I kept on hearing, seek help, financial support. There's so many people around us that can help. I also learned that you don't have to think that I have to invest big. Start small. Small things grow, like a mustard seed grows into a huge branch. So let us plan wisely. And the beauty is, panelists, one of them is in retirement. You know, it's not retiring from work, but retire from work, but not life.
Yes.
So we've had his version, and we can also do something better than that. Allow us to close this, and may you be guided as you plan and deliberate in your investment decisions that you take in your work life. There is always an entry and an exit. So let us plan wisely. Let us work together, our families, and not against our families. And let's build each other. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.